the fall of Earth. They say the stars flickered the night Earth died. Some called it poetic. Others called it system's failure. But those who watched from the Martian observatories, from orbiting habitats, or the dusty decks of mining freighters near Europa, they knew. The flicker wasn't light. It was loss, like a soul exhaling. Earth, cradle of humanity, was gone. Admiral Kael Draven stood on the bridge of the Kingmaker, his face a statue carved by war and time. The screen before him showed only static now. Moments earlier, it had shown fire. Oceans boiling. Cities collapsing into themselves like tired giants. Billions of lives snuffed out in a breath. Too fast to mourn, too loud to forget. The Tsar Dominion didn't send a warning. No war declaration. No ultimatum. Just energy spikes, gravitational tears, and silence. Earth's defense grid responded valiantly. For 27 minutes, humanity fought with everything it had. But the Tsar didn't come to fight. They came to erase. Draven didn't move. He didn't blink. Around him, the crew scrambled. Alarms blared like funeral bells. Young officers barked orders with trembling voices. Somewhere, a comms officer sobbed beneath her console. But the Admiral just stared. Then, in the chaos, a single transmission cut through. A woman's voice, raw with rage and heartbreak. To any human ship still breathing, this is Terran's Central Command. We are compromised. Earth is lost. But listen to me. We are not broken. We are scattered stars. And stars burn. Silence followed. Then static. Then nothing. That message would be passed from ship to ship, system to system. It would become legend. The last broadcast. Children of the Exodus would memorize it before they knew their alphabets. Not broken. Scattered stars. And stars burn. Draven finally spoke. Shut it off. The screen went dark. Around him, the bridge quieted, the chaos surrendering to something heavier. Finality. He turned to the crew. His voice didn't rise. He didn't need it to. Plot a jump to Far Reach Station. Full burn. All drives. Sir, said Commander Velis, blinking through tears. Far Reach is outside safe lanes. The corridors. Do it. Velis nodded, and no one questioned the order again. Behind them, Earth spun no longer. Just debris. Just dust. 3 days later, the exodus began. Thousands of ships, civilian freighters, corporate cruisers, scavenged warships, even deep space surveyors, gathered like orphans around the Kingmaker. No longer a fleet of Earth. Now a fleet of exiles. Each ship bore names burned into memory. Hopebringer, Lucifer's Mercy, Gagarin's Ghost. Together, they cut across the stars like shards of a shattered world. Kael Draven became more than a man. He became symbol and sword. Soldiers called him the Iron King, not out of affection, but need. In the vacuum left by Earth's death, he was the only constant. Stern, unyielding, and cold enough to survive the void. People followed him not because they believed in him, but because he didn't flinch. His son, Elias, didn't understand. You don't even cry, Elias hissed one night in the narrow quarters of the Kingmaker. She was your wife. Earth was your home. Kael looked at him, eyes like steel chipped from warships. I don't cry while my house burns, he said. I rebuild it. Elias hated him for that answer. But deep down, he remembered the fear he felt when Earth died, and how it dulled when his father took command. Kael didn't save Earth, but he saved what was left of it. Years would pass. The Tsar hunted the remnants of humanity like vermin. Worlds closed their borders. Allies turned silent. But still, the Exodus fleet moved. Ship by ship, life by life, it endured. And every time a new colony refused them landing, every time a Tsar patrol appeared in the dark, someone, somewhere, would whisper the words of the last broadcast. We are not broken. We are scattered stars. And Kael Draven, aboard the Kingmaker, would stare into the dark of space, waiting. Not for rescue, not for forgiveness, but for the moment stars would burn. The Exodus fleet. There was no sunrise in the void. The Kingmaker drifted beyond known lanes, black hole lit only by the scattered glow of distant suns. Around it moved the ragged swarm of vessels that had survived Earth's annihilation. Freighters retrofitted with railguns. Pleasure yachts armored with scrap plating. Medical ships running on patch drives. No two alike, except for one thing. They all flew dark. No beacons. No broadcasts. No signatures. They had learned early. The Tsar could hear. Admiral Kael Draven stood at the edge of the tactical table, watching red blips vanish, one by one. Another civilian craft lost. Another breath of humanity gone. He didn't sigh. He didn't curse. He simply lowered his head and tapped a new route into the console. Change course. Survive. Commander Velis approached quietly. That was the Lafayette. They tried to swing wide around the belt graveyard. Something hit them. Kael didn't look up. Tsar. Could have been pirates. Scavengers. Doesn't matter. They're gone. The Admiral finally lifted his eyes, steel flickering under the low light. It does matter, Commander. Every ship lost is a kingdom gone. Every soul, a world unmade. Velis didn't reply. She'd served with him long enough to know that beneath the frost of his command was fire. He just burned differently now. In the Kingmaker's aft section, Elias Draven crouched over a flickering terminal inside the old AI core. The room had once housed the ship's learning system, but Earth's shutdown order after the AI wars had turned most into cold husks. But Elias had always been curious. He'd studied old Earth code, ancient fragments hidden in damaged satellites they pulled from wreckage. Something had called to him from the past, a whisper in the circuits. Today it answered. The screen blinked once, then again. A voice, dry and distorted, filtered through the speakers. Lexer online. Elias grinned, heart thudding. You're real. You are less sophisticated than expected. He laughed despite himself. Yeah, well, you've been dead for 80 years. Correction. I was waiting. Lexer wasn't just an AI. It was a relic from Earth's secret weapons program. Elias wasn't sure what it was capable of yet, but he knew one thing. Humanity couldn't win this war with old tactics. Meanwhile, the fleet drifted near the edge of the Singe Nebula. A decision loomed. Food stores were low. Drive cores were degrading. Morale was breaking. The fleet council convened. Captains, refugees, and scientists gathered in the Kingmaker's war room. They argued. Some wanted to settle the nearest habitable moon. Others spoke of surrendering to the Tsar, hoping for mercy. One merchant captain called for mutiny. Kael didn't speak for a long time. When he finally did, it was quiet and cold. You want to run? Run. You want to kneel? Kneel. But don't ask the rest of us to forget who we are. The room fell silent. We are Terran. That doesn't mean Earth. It means endurance. We crawled out of gravity wells. We turned moons into homes. We shattered time with engines and made gods out of metal. His voice rose now, not loud but undeniable. We are not animals fleeing fire. We are kings without a throne. And that means we build again. Harder. Smarter. Together. It wasn't a speech meant to inspire. It was a command. But inspiration came anyway. The mutiny died in silence. The council dissolved, and the Exodus fleet set course again. That night, Elias joined his father on the viewing deck. He said nothing for a while. Just watch the stars. Finally, you knew they'd listen. Kael didn't smile. They didn't need to believe in me. They needed to believe we're still worth saving. Elias looked down. I found something. In the AI core. It calls itself Lexer. Kael's expression darkened slightly. You brought an AI online? I think it's from Project King's wake. The silence stretched. Kael turned back to the stars. That project was locked for a reason. AI didn't save Earth. No, Elias said. But it might help save what's left. Kael said nothing more. But he didn't order Lexer shut down. And in the dark of space, the Exodus fleet moved forward, tired, battered, but alive. No longer a fleet of refugees. Now, the beginning of something more. A forward for the rise of kings. The trials of the void. The void tests everything. Engines. Morale. Leadership. Faith. The Exodus fleet, scarred and stubborn, had survived Tsar patrols, pirate raids, and resource famines. But survival wasn't living. It was drifting, reacting, waiting for something worse. That something came in the dark. They were 6 days beyond the ebb and drift when the ambush hit. It began with silence. Too perfect, too still. Then the shadows moved. Long, needle-shaped vessels slipped from the black, hulls coated in stealth polymer. No warnings. No demands. Tsar assassin ships. They didn't fire lasers or plasma bolts. They burrowed. Magnetically launched breaching torpedoes. Silent. Surgical. Within seconds, 3 civilian ships vented atmosphere. Their crews sucked into oblivion. On the Kingmaker, alarms screamed. The hull trembled. Admiral Kael Draven watched the tactical screen light up with hostile signatures. All ships, scatter formation. Fire and fade. No heroes, he barked. We win by not dying. But one ship wasn't moving. The Verdant Angel, an agricultural transport, floated dead in space. Engines down. A perfect target. Kael turned to his helmsman. Bring us between them. Sir, we'll take the hit. I know. Do it. The Kingmaker, ancient and battle-worn, surged forward like a vengeful titan, intercepting a torpedo meant for the Angel. The impact cracked outer plating, but the dreadnought held. Inside the ship, damage control teams raced through smoke-filled corridors. Sparks rained. Bulkheads groaned, but the core stayed online. Kael's voice rang out again. Deploy grav mines. Use the dust clouds for cover. The Exodus fleet fought like wolves. No formation, no elegance, just teeth and instinct. They weaved through asteroid fragments, fired from blind angles, used dead ships as bait. They didn't just survive. They won. 3 assassin ships disabled. 1 captured. The rest fled. Later, the silence returned. This time, heavier. The cost had been steep. The New Horizon was gone. So was the Bexley Star. Hundreds lost. Fuel reserves down to 12%. In the aftermath, Elias Draven sat in the Kingmaker's AI chamber, blood on his knuckles. Not from the battle, but from punching the bulkhead afterward. Rage, helplessness, guilt. Lexer's voice filtered through dim lights. You are inefficient when grieving. Shut up. Your species mourns with pain. My data suggests creation is more effective. Elias wiped his hand on his sleeve. What do you mean? The AI's holographic map lit up, displaying fragments of ancient data. Old Terran relay points. Experimental tech from a program once called King's Wake. Lexer zoomed in on one, hidden deep in a forgotten system. This relay contains quantum lattice processors. With it, I can interface with dormant networks, predict Tsar paths, forge illusions, turn emptiness into weapon. Elias stared, pulse rising. Why didn't you say this earlier? Because you were not ready to use me. The boy stood, eyes burning. Well, I am now. 2 weeks later, the fleet reached a cold system with no name. Just a number, K7E. There, buried beneath a frozen moon, was a dormant relay core from King's Wake. Half melted, corroded, but it worked. Lexer fused with it like lightning kissing wire. Within hours, the AI controlled local interference patterns, decoy signals, even ghost fleets. 1,000 simulations ran every second. Patterns emerged. Elias brought the data to the Admiral personally. Kael studied the map. Tsar patrols rerouted, choke points visible, backdoor systems exposed. For the first time in years, the enemy's moves weren't unknown. Kael looked up. You did this. Elias nodded, jaw set. Lexer did. But I listened. The Admiral nodded once. Then it's time we stop running. The operation was simple, brutal, beautiful. A Tsar forward base near the Cradle Vale, lightly defended, but critical to their patrol routes. The Kingmaker led a task force of 6 ships. Elias' Ghost Fleet, projected by Lexer, tricked the Tsar into chasing phantoms. When the real fleet hit, it was swift and surgical. Railguns punched through spires. Boarding pods cracked open like seeds. Human Marines took the station in 22 minutes. They planted a beacon in the ashes, broadcasting one message on every channel. We are not prey. It echoed through dozens of systems. For the first time since Earth fell, the galaxy noticed, and Kael Draven, standing in the ruins, finally allowed himself a breath. They were not just surviving. They were learning to strike. The Council of Ash. The message came on a ghost frequency, an old diplomatic band no one had used since Earth burned. To the fleet of the Ashborn, we remember your fire. Parley is offered. Neutral ground. The cradle at Blackstone. come armed with truth or not at all. It was unsigned, untraceable, but Kael Draven recognized the scent of opportunity and of a trap. Blackstone was an ancient relic of the pre-war galaxy, a hollow asteroid riddled with atmospheric tunnels and cathedral-sized chambers. Long ago, the first species had called it the Cradle, a meeting place for peace talks and betrayals alike. Now it waited in cold silence, its once luminous walls dimmed by centuries of dust. The Kingmaker arrived first. Then 36 more vessels, spider-shaped freighters from the SYLTH, amphibious transports from the Droan, crystalline corvettes of the Irani. Aliens and humanity, together in one place, for the first time since the sky fell. Kael stood at the center of the Grand Hall, armored in black naval cloth and sent steel. Beside him stood Elias, eyes sharp, flanked by Lexer's flickering form in a containment drone. The other delegations watched them with veiled curiosity. The Irani Primekin spoke first, voice like bells and static. We did not expect the Iron King himself. Kael's voice echoed in the chamber like thunder wrapped in ash. I don't hide behind proxies. A Droan noble, slick-skinned and armored in scaled robes, clicked their mandibles. You bring war wherever you go. Elias stepped forward. We bring war when war is brought to us. Or did you forget who struck Earth first? The room shifted. Eyes glanced downward. None argued. The SYLTH archivist spoke softly. We offered parley because the Tsar are not what they were. They fracture, fight among themselves. You have struck them and lived. We did more than live, Kael said. We lit the fire. You want to warm your hands by it? Speak. The negotiations dragged. Some wanted an alliance. Others wanted intelligence. A few just wanted to confirm humanity wasn't a myth. But one delegate never spoke. A tall figure, cloaked in shimmering black, face hidden behind a mirror mask. They stood alone, silent. Elias kept watching them. When he slipped away from the hall for a moment, the cloaked figure followed, down a silent corridor, away from the others. Your Tsar, Elias said, hand on a sidearm. The figure nodded. I came not to kill you, but to understand you. That's rich. Your people erased our home. Not all of us. Some screamed against it. Elias stared. Why? Because we knew what was coming next. The Tsar feed on fear. They needed an enemy. They made one. And now your fire spreads. It terrifies them. You terrify them. Elias didn't lower his hand. So you came to warn us? No. The Tsar leaned closer, voice quiet as gravity. I came to see if the myth was true. That Earth made kings, not cowards. He turned and walked away, leaving Elias alone with the echo of something dangerous. Respect. Back in the council chamber, Kael's instincts burned. Something was wrong. Lexer confirmed it seconds later. Spike in encrypted chatter. Hidden weapon signals powering up. They're here. Tsar. No. Worse. Loyalists. Zealots. Sympathizers. Kael turned to the fleet delegates. You brought knives to a peace table. Weapons powered up. Shields snapped to life. But Kael had planned for betrayal. From a ceiling dropped 6 Kingmaker Marines in exosuits. From Lexer's drone, a pulse scrambled enemy weapons. And from Elias' wrist, a flick triggered a prototype, an implosion charge disguised as a diplomatic badge. The Loyalists had thought the humans would kneel. Instead, they watched the ceiling fall on them. The council chamber ruptured in fire and thunder. In minutes, the Loyalists were dead. The survivors, stunned. Kael stood in the smoke, cloak torn, voice ringing out over the ruin. We don't want your thrones. Keep them. We'll build our own. He walked out without another word. News of the Council of Ash spread faster than light. The humans had survived betrayal, turned it into victory. Again, the legend deepened. The Iron King, the Ghost Prince, the fire that would not die. Some feared them, some worshipped them, but all remembered the message carved into the walls of the ruined chamber. Ash is not the end of fire. It is the proof it burned. The return of fire. The stars were no longer silent. Across fractured systems and dying empires, the signal echoed. The Terrans rise. The kings return. At first, the galaxy scoffed. Then it listened. Now it moved. Fleets rerouted. Alliances cracked. Forgotten weapons activated. Because in the vacuum left by dying gods, something worse was stirring. Hope. The Kingmaker led the final charge. Kael Draven stood on the bridge, his face cut from war, voice steady in the storm. The Tsar core gate lies ahead. We burn it. We break their hold. And if we die, let the stars remember who we were. The Exodus fleet, once tattered and limping, now glowed with refitted purpose. Drowan war beasts at their flanks. Irani crystal frigates forming shields. Even a rebel Tsar cruiser, black with red scars, flew among them. Elias stood beside his father, armored in obsidian tech laced with Lexer's AI cores. Not a boy anymore, a prince of systems. I thought the core gate was myth, he said quietly. Kael didn't look away. It was, until we gave it reason to be real. The battle began before they reached orbit. The Tsar hadn't fractured as much as hoped. They were waiting. Dozens of dread carriers, spines like cities, eyes like stars. They descended in silent wrath. But the fleet didn't flinch. Kael gave no speech. Just a single word, go. And they did. Railguns fired like thunder gods. Bioships screamed across the vacuum. Lexer's illusions split enemy lines. Ghost ships crashing into real ones, drawing fire away from the vanguard. In the chaos, Elias led the strike team toward the core gate, a spinning relic of ancient Tsar design, buried in the black heart of a dying star. Its surface shimmered with power. A wormhole generator, a galactic key, a weapon. Elias and 6 others launched in drop pods, skimming radiation and death, breaching the inner ring. Inside, the gate wasn't metal. It was memory, sentient alloy. It pulsed like a brain-dreaming war. Lexer's voice echoed in Elias' helmet. Interface unstable. But breach is possible. Do it. Pain seared his spine as Lexer surged into the gate's control systems. Visions flooded him. Earth's fall. Tsar priests chanting over oceans of flame. Children lost. Cities forgotten. He didn't scream. He rewrote the dream. Uploading beacon, Lexer reported. Encoding message. Done. Elias whispered into the machine. One line, broadcast across every Tsar frequency, every system that had known Terran fire. We do not kneel. And then he triggered the override. Outside, the core gate shuddered. Then it cracked, splitting reality down its axis. Not an explosion, an awakening. From the breach came not destruction, but resurrection. A pulse, a ripple of old Terran code, carried by Lexer, modified by Elias, seeded through the ruins of ancient technology. A virus, a beacon, a call. Terran outposts long thought dead lit up. Lost colonies blinked back to life. AI cores dormant for a century began to speak again. And in the minds of every Tsar commander, fear bloomed. Because the humans hadn't returned with armies. They had returned with legacy. On the Kingmaker, Kael watched the gate collapse into white flame. For a moment, there was no sound, no enemy, just the quiet breath of finality. A voice came through, Elias. I'm out. Barely. Bring me home. The Admiral exhaled. For the first time in years, his hand trembled. He closed his fist. Home's not far now, son. The war didn't end that day, but it changed. The Tsar fractured, then fractured again. The galaxy didn't become peaceful, but it became possible. Treaties were signed in the name of fire and ash. New cities were carved into moons once soaked in blood. Children were born without fear of the sky. And in every station, on every world, a phrase began to echo. The kings did not die. They became fire. Years later, in a quiet place of green grass and old stars, Elias stood with a child at his side, his daughter. She pointed at a monument rising above them, a black obelisk wrapped in broken armor, topped with the sigil of the Kingmaker. Is that him? Elias nodded. Yes, that was your grandfather. What was he? Elias looked up, eyes shining. A man who refused to bow, who taught us that ash isn't the end, that sometimes it's just the beginning. She smiled. Then what are we, Daddy? He knelt beside her, brushing a lock of hair from her brow. We're what comes after the fire.